Hello and welcome to the lecture. Let's understand what is client-server technology. So first let's understand what is these words called as client side and the server side. You have to understand these words because we're going to use this language in further sections. We're going to talk about client side, server side, then you should understand what I am talking about. So before that, let's understand what is client side and what is server side. And imagine the situation wherein Jim is basically the buyer and Bob is a seller, and Jim is trying to access Bob's computer via the host name, and then Bob actually have a server where all the files has been stored, all those images, videos and all these files has been stored, and the Jim want to send a request to Bob saying that I want to buy a phone. So in this context, Jim logs in into the web browser, he types bob.com, he send the request to buy the phone. Okay, then the Bob computer accept that request and say, okay, let me send you a response saying that, okay, I have a phone available and you can buy for this price. And then the transaction between Jim and Bob happens, and Jim can agree to whatever images he's been showing, and then he can agree to pay the price via the payment method that Bob is offering. And once he pays it, then Bob will transfer that phone to Jim. Okay, so that's basically in this transaction, right? Jim is client side. He is initiating the request. Okay, he is client side, he is the one who is sending the request, and Bob is server side, who is hosting the details and who is responsible is to send the response. So remember, the client side is where the Jim access the browser, and browser is sending a request to the Bob's computer. So Jim becomes the client side, and the Bob's computer, who is hosting all the files, send the response based on the request sent to the Bob. Okay, and Bob is called as server side. There's another name given to him. The client side can also called as requester. Really, he's a requester because he is requesting the details from Bob, right? He is the one logging onto the computer and typing bob.com. So he's a requester, he is client side, and the one that is providing the response is called as provider. Okay, we'll be using this terminology to understand further concepts. We'll be using client side, server side, requester and provider. In this client server technology, there is a requester and there is a provider, and the requester is always requesting the information with the provider, and provider is basically a server sitting in the internet with some files in it, right? And requester is always requesting that information to the provider, and the provider, once it gets those requests, it serves the request by providing a response back to the requester. And all this communication of request and response happening over the protocol called as HTTP protocol. So whenever you see HTTP protocol, so remember that definition. Whenever there is an HTTP protocol, requester is requesting the information and providing is sending that response to the requester. Okay, and all this is happening via an HTTP protocol. It is nothing but an application protocol that is used to transfer data in the web, and that data is nothing but the hypertext. Okay, and we have looked at what is client side. The one who is requesting is called as client side, and one who is providing all those information that is sitting in that server is called as server side. Well, there could be multiple clients and single server. Well, multiple clients like your mobile phone, computer, laptop, all these are trying to access the server and requesting to fetch those details, and server is just accepting those requests and sending the response with all those details back to these clients. Okay, and all this communication happens via the HTTP protocol. Okay, so that's how the client server technology works. Server holds all the information and it is a powerful machine. Most of the times your servers are powerful because server has to handle all the requests from the client. Okay, so it holds all the information, and the job of server is to get the request and send a response. Okay, many clients initiate the request to the server to fetch the data, and then server accepts the request and send the data as a response to that client. Okay, and then client server technology is also called as request response pattern. So if you're hearing request response pattern for the first time, it is embedded in the concept of client server technology. If you understand client server technology, it is nothing but request and response pattern. Client initiate the request and server give the response back to the client. Okay, that's nothing but called as client server technology. So that's all for this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one.